Obviously, I'm not Pastor Dave, but this gives us a good opportunity to just do a little review of the events that happened over the past several months, I'm actually going to say. But before I start, let me express my sincere thanks to this congregation for being a sending church, for sponsoring and supporting me these past months. Without the support of this church and our commitment to missions, none of what I'm going to show you would be possible. I would also like to clarify something I will be saying this morning. You're going to hear me using acronyms and terms that you may not be aware of, such as you'll hear me say IWs, or international workers, throughout my presentation. The CMA uses these terms as opposed to missionaries, because depending upon where you're working in the world, the term missionary can get you locked up in jail, or worse, can get you killed. The term international worker seems kind of vague, but it is exactly what they're doing. They are out in the world doing what they are called to do. So, going back several months, we here at River Valley have been doing a lot of preparations, and you helped with it. Whether you gave money to the short-term mission, you gave money to the guest house, or you provided gifts for international workers. Each time River Valley got involved in any of the aspects of this mission, it showed the IWs in Thailand that they were being thought of, that they felt supported, lifted, and empowered, while being on the complete opposite end of the world. It was a common theme that came up with in my conversations with IWs, that they were thankful to feel the support that River Valley provides. So on behalf of the Thailand mission, thank you. Now, speaking of those gifts for the international workers, you guys are way too good at your job. Trying to get all of those gifts packed and ready to go was quite the undertaking. For those of you who aren't aware about travel, when packing suitcases, it's not just about getting everything to fit inside of a suitcase. You got to worry about the weight of it. Now, it's hard to read, but this scale, we're only allowed 50 pounds per suitcase. That says 49.46 pounds. We took it to the absolute max without going over. And we took 3 suitcases and a very full backpack. But so 164 pounds later, and we are packed and ready to go to the airport. Now, to put in reference, I left my house at noon on a Thursday. So that is including the time it took to drive to Chicago. It took 2 cars, 2 airplanes, 1 airport shuttle, and 28 hours of travel later, I finally made it to the guest house. It is referred to as AMH. For those of you who have heard of AMH in the past, you've always known it as Alliance Mission House. Because of, like I said, they use the term international workers now, just by having Alliance in there can put somebody at risk. So they changed the name, so it is now the Asia Mosaic Home, or AMH Bangkok. For those of you who don't know what AMH does, think of it as like a hotel. However, it's specifically designed towards the missions field. This facility is used by IWs when they arrive in country, when they're getting ready to leave the country, or they can use it as a place to visit and just kind of reset in the middle of their term. But like I said, I left noon on a Thursday, but when I finally made it to AMH, it was 5 a.m. on a Saturday morning. 5 a.m. there is 5 p.m. here, just for reference. So there was a little bit of jet lag going on. But just because I arrived, it didn't mean that I could rest. Over the course of the next 16 days, 5 churches would be visited, and discussions would be had with 7 different ministries. So some of those ministries, so I was in Bangkok the majority of my stay, and about an hour drive from where I was staying was Ed and Sue Daniker. Some of you might recognize them. They are church planters in the Banpeo, Banpo, and Mahachai regions, and they're planting churches in those regions. So on Sunday morning, my first stop was their Banpeo church. Some of you might recognize this. We have featured it in the past, but there is probably like 30 chairs in there, but they are all filled every Sunday. So I went to church Sunday morning there. We had a nice luncheon because that is what they do in their culture is after church you have lunch together, you have fellowship. And then from there I went to the second church for the afternoon. And this is their sister church, the Mahapan Living Church in Mahachai, where I listened to this gentleman. Does anybody recognize him? Yeah, some of them. Yeah, this is Pastor Supersan. River Valley has a long-standing relationship with him and his church plants. So Pastor Supersan preached the sermon, all of it in Thai, obviously, but Ed Daniker was there to translate for me, thankfully. But does anybody notice about anything in this photo? River Valley. River Valley made it into his sermon that Sunday. Pastor Supersan got the opportunity to visit River Valley 6 years ago. And he was very blessed by that experience, just like I was blessed to be part of his church. And he did not hesitate to take the opportunity to talk about it. Now, like I said, Supersan preached in Thai. The worship team sang in Thai. Does anybody know what they're saying? I didn't either, but one thing I did know is that no matter what words they were using, I knew that all the glory and honor was being given to the Lord. So I got to spend Sunday in both of those church plants, and then a couple days later, I would then leave Bangkok and fly up to Chiang Mai, which is about another hour flight. Chiang Mai is up in kind of the mountainous region, where I got to go to meet and talk with some staff members at Remember New. For those of you who don't know, Remember New is an organization that fights against human trafficking. They do this by preventing it. In Thailand, poverty is a large issue, and unfortunately, the only way some families can afford to survive is by selling off their children. Remember New identifies these children who are at risk and provides them with housing, Christian love, and other resources. In Chiang Mai, they have 40 acres of property with 9 houses on it, a soccer field, a 7-Eleven, fish pond, and various different types of fruit trees and plants for harvesting. Currently, they are serving 102 children from the nearby hill tribes. I wish you guys could have heard the audible gasp from these girls when I opened up the suitcase that was jam-packed full of the coloring books that you provided. The sheer excitement on their face when they were sifting through the books trying to decide which one they wanted to color in. So each night I was there, we would play games together. Has anybody played Tenzi dice before? You have 10 dice, and you are shaking them up, and you're rolling them, and you're trying to get all of the same number. And whoever gets there first wins. This little boy in blue, he won like 20 times, and we had to start watching to see if he was cheating. I was trying to film while playing, but I had to stop because I was losing bad. But each night we would play games together, and then we would eat a meal together as well. These kids who are at risk get to know joy, safety, and peace through Remember New. I truly wish that one day some of you might get to meet them and see the joy on their face in person. So while I was still in Chiang Mai, I got to visit the Grace International School. This is a school designed for children of IWs, otherwise known as TCK, or third culture kids. For international workers in the field, it can take a bit of a toll on yourself. But for the kids, it can be so much harder. The school serves kids from elementary school all the way up to high school, and it provides the kids with a normal school experience. But they also provide a strong Christian background as well. Grace International School is consistently growing in size each year. This next year, they are hoping to enroll just over 300 students. As I walked down the hallways, I got an overwhelming feeling of nostalgia because it was so similar to any American high school you walk through, which just reinforces the notion of how important this ministry is for these students. Not only for the kids, but it's also a peace of mind for the parents themselves. So after I got to visit them, back on another plane, flew back down to Bangkok. The next ministry I got to visit was this coffee shop. Why would I show a coffee shop? Because on Sunday mornings, it transforms into a church. This coffee shop is operated by Envision, which is the CMA's short-term missions branch. This is the base of operations for different ministries or different outreaches that Envision participates in, including Rahab Ministries. You may notice that this kind of looks like a bit of a younger crowd, wouldn't you say? Most of these are college students who are doing interning through Envision so that they can learn where they want to be in the missions field in the future. Some of you might be wondering, what did I eat while I was over there? The food in Thailand is some of the most delicious food you will ever have. And then sometimes you have to be a little bit brave to eat the food that is provided to you, like raw egg or cuttlefish. It's a little squid-like fish. Like I said, sometimes you just have to be brave and just eat it. But in the words of Mike Friedel, it wouldn't be a missions trip without having some ice cream. Now, even though it was a lot of fun being there was still a lot of work that needed to be done. This is the upper room at AMH. This space is used for a multitude of things. It's a conference room for events or trainings during the week, and then serves as a church on Sundays. It was discovered that the roof was leaking, which resulted in some water damage in the ceiling, which you can kind of see on that upper left corner. The water damage was showing through. So over the course of my stay, we would completely tear out all the ceiling tiles and replace them with newer ceiling tiles, lights, and ceiling fans. The work was hot. The days were long. We weren't even sure if we were going to finish this project when we started. However, slowly but surely, we made progress each day. Fortunately, we were able to finish the project and get it ready before church the following Sunday. Quick message from Cory and Shelley Peters. They are the managers at AMH. River Valley Alliance, thank you. Asia Mosaic Home Bangkok is extremely grateful for your generosity. Your gift allowed us to replace a 60-year-old ceiling, making our large meeting room bright and welcoming. This space hosts a church, various meetings, conferences, trainings, and other activities. It is an important part of our ministry, and we thank you. Who's ready for the big reveal? It doesn't seem like a lot, but new ceiling, couple coats of paint, and some new lights, it really brightens up the room, and it gives the managers there some peace of mind, and they got projectors, ceiling fans. They are so thankful and happy for it. Along the way, I had many conversations with many different people, some of which you know already, like the Danekers, which I showed, and Debbie Vick, who might be coming this fall. But today I'm going to take a couple minutes to talk about some people that you don't know yet. So I mentioned Cory and Shelley Peters. They come from Canada. They were my gracious hosts while I was in the country. As part of being the managers of AMH, they take on a very special role of providing soul care for the IWs. Meaning when an international worker comes through AMH, it's not just a place for them to stay, but it's also a place for them to unwind, decompress, and just have somebody to talk to. This is what Cory and Shelley can offer them. Now, speaking of soul care, Cory and Shelley have a very good soul care specialist in their employment. This is Mango. Mango became my best friend while I was over there, and is a very important part of their ministry. Then we have these three gentlemen. We have David on the left. He is the unofficial maintenance man at AMH. Then there is Oliver and Elder. Oliver is the son, Elder is the father. All three of them are Pakistani, and they are devout Christians. David left Pakistan because he was persecuted for his faith, and he's been in Thailand for 25 years, while waiting for a visa to go to Canada, which he recently found out was denied. Oliver and Elder, the father and son, they have been in Thailand for close to 10 years, also waiting for a visa. Elder's family faces a lot of persecution. His brother, who was a pastor in Pakistan, he has wanted posters for his arrest. Not because he did anything wrong, but because he shared his faith. So they were forced to flee Pakistan. Now, to make things worse, because of bureaucracy, poverty, and other laws in Thailand, these gentlemen are technically not allowed to work, because that would be taking a job away from a Thai person. The only way that they're able to sustain themselves is through the generosity of the church. Similarly, like River Valley has the Benevolence Fund, that is what these gentlemen are forced to live off of, is just generosity of others. Now we have Asim and Elia. Asim is the mother, Elia is the daughter. Asim is originally from Kazakhstan. She grew up in the USSR. She accepted Christ at the age of 9 and has been heavily influenced by Christian groups like Campus Crusade. As the years went on, Asim grew up, she got married, and moved to Turkey. At first, everything in life was good, but things would turn for the worse. Asim's husband would become kind of absent from the picture, and things would lead to the point of separation. due to Turkish laws, the father would get custody of the children because they were viewed as property. Asam's husband, who is not a Christian, would continue to view Elia as property, and this would be a bad situation for Elia. Asam, being the protective mother that she is, packed up all their things and they fled their home, but they had nowhere to go. Asam could not go back to Kazakhstan to her family because that would be the first place that her husband would look. And plus, when she moved to Turkey, she actually gave up her Kazakh citizenship. She's currently drifting from place to place until she can figure out what to do next. She found her way to AMH through the local church, but she couldn't stay there because she only had a 30-day Thai visa, tourist visa. So she had to move on to the next country before she would be an illegal. In each of their own ways, they've been through uncertain circumstances. Whether it's being a refugee from your homeland, being persecuted for your faith, or living day to day with little to no prospects for the future. Or you're on the run from your husband to protect your child with no way of knowing where you're going next. But what's one thing you notice in each of these photos? They're all smiling. How can that be? What do they have to smile about? Do you remember what description I put in each of their bios? Christian, 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 Christian. They know that in uncertainty, one thing remains constant, and that is the love of God in our lives. 1 Peter 5 says, "Cast all your anxiety on him, because he cares for you." Psalm 46:1, "God is our refuge and strength, and ever-present help in trouble." Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." When Jeremiah wrote this, he was speaking to the exiled people of Israel. Exiled people, you say? Are we ever faced with uncertainty? Has anybody in here ever lost a job? Have you lost a home? Or have you been in a home, but it was not safe or healthy for you? In those times, I'm sure you could be very uncertain of what you're going to do next. But one thing can be certain, and that is the love of God, the love that God shows each of us every day, and he has planned for us. Now I'm going to call the worship team forward again. Isaiah 41:10 says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am with you. For I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." I can tell you, these 5 people feel God's love in their lives. Do you? If you do, that's great. Let's come together and celebrate that love in worship. But if you don't feel God in your life, come talk to me, come talk to one of the elders or anybody here today. Don't go home without talking to somebody about that. We want to talk with you and pray with you. Let's worship together. Thank you.